Hello, this is Miss Dagenford, and I wanted to show you what makes us and your dog and your cat or your trees in your backyard, the bacteria that are in you and on you, and even the viruses that are causing so much trouble, what makes them unique and us unique would be the chemistry that make us up. And that would be the chemistry of carbon. So you have these Google Slides, and you're going to be using these as we go through our lesson. As you're listening to the video, you're going to be following along as well on your slides. And then there are going to be some activities that you're going to be doing along with me. So let's go ahead and get started. So by the end of this video lesson, you should tell me what makes carbon unique and what makes the other elements in our organic families. You should also be able to tell me the four main organic families that make up all living things on the earth. And that should be pretty amazing, right? Every living thing that's made and designed only is made of four types of molecules, and that's pretty crazy. So carbon, let me show you a little model of carbon. There we go. I'm going to hold it up to the camera. Carbon is usually represented as a black in our models, and carbon, notice, has four little projections, and that's going to represent the ability to make four covalent bonds. And because it's got this very lovely tetrahedral shape, that means carbon has this very versatile ability to make many different shapes. So I just put some here on our slides. Uh, well, this is our simplest, good old methane, CH4. But carbon can make triple bonds, carbon can make double bonds, and you can also then either have straight chains or branched. And that's going to be true for all of these carbon compounds. They have the vast ability to just be switched or changed or made into very different combinations. Now, thankfully for us, all of these combinations have very distinctive patterns. And that's what we want to look for. So, really, this section is all about looking for the patterns. Now, there are four main organic families made from carbon backbones. In other words, just putting carbons together. These four families, some of them you're familiar with. So, carbohydrates, you've definitely heard before. Carbohydrates would be the sugars and starches that are in a lot of our foods. Lipids are ones that you probably haven't heard before, but you know what they are. Fats and oils, cholesterol, those are things you've heard before, and of course they're in our foods as well. Proteins would be our third group, and again, you've heard of proteins. You know where proteins are found: meat, cheese, dairy, eggs, beans. Some vegetables have a good source of protein, but those are a good list. And we know a lot of what protein does in our body. Protein makes our skin, parts of our skin, our hair, our bones and muscles, enzymes that are in our body. And now we've in the news we know that antibodies from all of the virus talk, antibodies are definitely proteins as well. And then the fourth group, again, you may not have known the name of it, but you've heard of the examples. Nucleic acids would be things like DNA, deoxyribonucleic acid, and RNA, ribonucleic acid. So, before we move on to the specific families, let me make sure we're clear about, again, what makes these unique. So, all organic molecules have common elements. This is why we weren't really worrying about the really bottom level of the periodic table, because organic chemistry really involves those top two rows. So notice this really weird word that we kind of make up here. It's called CHNOPS. And that's because it's carbon, hydrogen, nitrogen, oxygen, phosphorus, and sulfur. And so CHNOPS stands for the six main elements in living systems. And you can see by this little cartoon from the Amoeba Sisters that carbohydrates have carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen. So do lipids. Lipids have carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen. The difference is in their ratio, their combination. Proteins have carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, and nitrogen, CHON, and then nucleic, and then sometimes sulfur. And then nucleic acids have carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, nitrogen, phosphorus. So if you're wondering where that sulfur was, it's in proteins. Some proteins have sulfur. So let me get out of my present mode for a second, and you're going to do this too. One of the hallmarks of organic compounds, other than lipids don't really do this, but carbohydrates, proteins, and nucleic acids, they all are made of monomers, and then the monomers are built together to make a polymer. So, for instance, I was having some fun with just some Play-Doh. Each individual little ball of clay, here's another one, here's a green one. Well, they would be monomers. So if they are separate, those are monomers. But if I were to connect them together, I get a polymer. Now, the words should help you out. Monomer means one, and then polymer, poly means many. So we're going to do this. You need to do this as well on your Google Slides. We're going to put some monomers down on our screen. And this is similar to what happens when you're building muscle, when you're building hair. What your body does is it takes these monomers, whatever monomer that we're going to be using, and it's going to be connecting. Oh, scoot that down a little bit. It's going to be connecting those monomers together. And so just as you're doing on your slide, you do this constantly all day long. You're building these polymers, and that's what we want to figure out, and that's what happens to our bodies. Let me see if I can't sneak a couple in there. So each individual one is a monomer, but when we connect them together, that makes a polymer. So as we go through our 4 families, what you want to look for is the pattern and the characteristics, what makes them unique. So that's your little introduction to carbon chemistry. And that's what makes us and your dog and your cats and your trees and your bacteria and amoebas. That's what makes them unique and different from the metal and plastic and wood of your desks.